conscious. Was she a chef? Was she a chef? Let's go. I got 2 lemons. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Super grateful that you're here. As per always, I hope you're having a beautiful damn day. This week we are doing a $30 challenge for what I eat in a week, but it is an extra challenge being a vegan as well and not spending that much money because the majority of my diet is fresh produce, which tends to be super expensive right now. However, I wanted to show you guys that it is completely possible to eat a healthy and balanced diet while being a vegan on a budget. I used to never be able to spend a lot of money on food, and my max budget was $50 a week. However, this week I wanted to cut that down even further and do a $30 challenge. I did up spending $34 on all of this, but not all of this is going to be used up within these next few days. But without further ado, let's get on to a little grocery haul to show you everything that I got. So we got some red onions and we got some white onions as well, which are essential for stir fries, salads. Got a massive bag of avocados. So red onion for guacamole is gonna be fire. A massive bag of carrots. We got a very cute green cabbage, which is adorable if I do say so myself. Got a thing of cilantro, which is gonna be so great for adding extra flavor into salads, in my guacamole. Fresh herbs are relatively cheap, but add so much flavor. Got a zucchini. I got a thing of tofu, which I'm gonna spread out as much as possible to add some extra calories into my meals, add some extra protein. Two things of lemon. I got 2 lemons. And I got 4 limes over here as well to add some acidity to dishes and also be able to massage it into my kale, which brings me on to a big old thing of kale. I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but I low-key, when I get married, I just want to have like a bouquet of like kale and like radishes, just like really vibrantly colored veggies, fruit, then have some like flowers in there as well. I think that's just so cute and unique. I feel like that is one of the hippiest things I've ever said, but you know what? I'm okay with it. I am a hippie. We got a red bell pepper, which was a lot more expensive than I thought it was gonna be, unfortunately. It's just the time of year to not buy red bell peppers. So these bags of veggies that I got, the avocados and the carrots and the apples, were all $2. I got so much produce for $6, and I highly, highly, highly recommend going to your grocery store and looking at the reduced rack, because a lot of the time things that are on the reduced rack aren't things that actually have to be on the reduced rack. Most grocery stores do have a rack with reduced produce. So couple sweet potatoes, which were so freaking cheap. I also got 2 russet potatoes as well, which were also $1. 2 things of garlic, thing of coconut milk. I got cans of beans, and the only reason I didn't buy dried beans was because I got 2 different beans for $1 each, so each can was $1 instead of buying 1 bag of singular beans for like $3 or like $2.75. And I wanted some more variety this week. So I also picked up a reduced almond yogurt. I typically go for coconut yogurt, and there was the option to buy that as well. However, because this one has a lot more protein than the coconut yogurt, I went for this one. And of course I had to get some nanners because they are a great snack and so cheap. Raspberries as well, because they are a pretty good price for fresh raspberries. A package of linguine as well. And I typically like to eat brown rice pasta simply because my body doesn't love gluten, but at the same time, if you can't afford it, it is what it is. So this is my big old grocery haul that brings me to a total of $34.07. And let's get cooking because I am so hungry. I have not had lunch yet, and let's dive into this. So as you heard, I said I did not have lunch yet. I did have breakfast this morning, but I didn't use the grocery haul produce simply because I didn't go grocery shopping yet. So this is the first meal that I'm making with the produce that I bought. So this is not the cabbage that I just bought. However, I wanted to show you how to make your own sauerkraut because it is a simple and very cheap way to make sure you get your fermented foods in. So all I did was thinly slice the cabbage, splitting it into 2 bowls because I didn't have a bowl large enough to do all of the cabbage in. I added about 1.5 tablespoons of salt to each bowl. And then using my hands, just massaging that salt into the cabbage. I did that until some liquid was coming out, and then I let it sit for 30 to 40 minutes. And after I let it sit for 30 to 40 minutes, I then gave it another round of massaging for about 3 to 4 minutes in each bowl. I then stuffed it into 2 glass jars, ensuring that the brine was covering the cabbage completely. Ew, you're gonna have mint ice cream with peach pie? You're such a weirdo.
Feels so goofy.
I didn't have enough to fill this small glass jar, but it is what it is and it should be okay. And to also make sure that I shoved a cabbage leaf on top of it, sealed up the jars, and then put it on the counter. You're gonna let the jars sit for about a week or 2. Depends how hot your kitchen is really, but you are gonna have to burp the jars. So to know when you have to burp the jars, touch the lid, and if the lid doesn't give that popping sound or doesn't spring back, you know you need to burp it because the gases are creating pressure in the jar. To carry on the cabbage conversation for a second more, make sure you burp your jars and check your jars often because it could turn into a cabbage bomb. And what I mean by that is when you're fermenting things, you're creating gases, and those gases create pressure, and that pressure could essentially explode the jar, and nobody wants to clean that up. So just check your jars. Anyways, moving on to dinner, we are sauteing some onions, some carrots, some garlic with some basil, oregano, chili flakes, salt, pepper, of course, in some olive oil. I then threw in a bay leaf and threw in some coconut milk as well. I threw some pasta on, so that is what we are having. We are making a sauce to go on the pasta, and I wanted sort of like a Alfredo vibe, even though this is gonna taste nothing like Alfredo, but I wanted like a creamy sauce. I threw in some pasta water for some extra salt and some extra liquid, threw in some kale for some greenness with a little bit of lemon juice to cut the fat from the coconut milk. And by cutting fat, I just mean to balance out the flavor because coconut milk is quite fatty. Adding acidity to it will really brighten up the flavors and make it not feel as heavy on your tongue. So I threw my pasta in there, gave it a really good mix, and then it was time to eat. And I actually ate a lot of this pasta. I was a hungry girl, not gonna lie. I gave a little bit to Mitch, but hey, girl's on a budget. I can't afford to feed him as well. However, I am a nice human being and he wanted to taste test it, so I gave him a little bit of pasta and he jokingly said it was better than his dinner. So let me just attest that you can make delicious food on a budget. Okay. So I was still quite hungry, not gonna lie. I was still really hungry, so this is a little cheat. We had some leftovers from some rice paper rolls that we made the other day, so I just threw on some cilantro with a little bit of lime juice and a little bit of tamari, and you know what? I had to honor my craving. So part of me debated whether or not I was gonna have my morning drink this week, but I had to. It's just part of my ritual. I feel like my morning hasn't started unless I've made a warm drink. For that reason, I'm making coffee most of this week simply because I feel like it's one thing that people on a budget do have in the house. Even though I'm trying to cut out coffee, I had it basically every single day this week for the sake of this video, not for the sake of my low-key addiction to it, obviously. Anyways, we were making some guacamole. We added 3 or 4 avocados, I honestly can't remember, along with some lime juice, a little bit of red pepper, a little bit of cilantro, and some salt. Simple as that, and it made such a delicious guacamole. I don't find that you need to go crazy with guacamole. As long as you add enough salt and enough acidity, the flavors really pop and it's super fresh. For breakfast, we are just keeping it super simple with a little bit of a fall vibe. So I'm just chopping up a couple apples and then I'm going to throw them into my pan on low to medium heat. Add a splash of water just to soften them up, throw on the lid and let them sit there for a minute or 2. I added some cinnamon and some salt along with 1/2 cup of oats and 1 cup of water. Because these aren't quick oats that I typically buy, they do take a little bit longer because they are large flaked oats. I then plated that up, added some almond yogurt, some raspberries, and a banana. Not gonna lie, I really lucked out with this almond yogurt. It is so fluffy and creamy and delicious, and it literally just made my breakfasts so much better. Highly recommend it, especially if you can find it on sale.
Let me spit my game. Guess I'll never know, never know, never know. Would that be me?
So we are massaging up some kale with some lemon juice and some salt, and then just chopping up a bunch of veggies to make a pickled Buddha bowl with a roasted sweet potato as well, which I currently have in the oven. And the reason I didn't show you that was because honestly, it's boring. All I did was wash the sweet potato, add a little bit of oil to it, rub it in with my fingers, and then toss it in the oven for about 35 minutes at 400. And I needed a little dressing along with this as well. So we did some olive oil that I had just sitting in a bowl because I accidentally poured way too much olive oil in my pan the other day and I had to put it somewhere, along with some apple cider vinegar, chipotle powder, onion powder, salt. And I would recommend adding a little bit of sweetness in this, but part of my goal this week was to not use that many ingredients, including expensive ingredients like maple syrup.
Something about you supernatural.
For dinner tonight, I did go off the menu a little bit because I had a leek sitting in my fridge that I really wanted to use, along with mushrooms that were gonna go bad as well. And I'm someone that really doesn't like to waste food at all. So we are making a recipe with a leek and mushrooms that I did not purchase this week. Anyways, now that we're over that, I'm just sauteing my leek and my mushrooms along with carrots, a little bit of tofu, some ginger powder, some tamari. And the reason I didn't add garlic into this was I wanted to use my garlic sparingly, and leek has like a garlicky onion flavor anyways. I forgot to hit record. Okay guys, all I did was throw an avocado, half of an avocado on there with a bunch of cilantro and a quarter piece of lime. If you want, I can prove that to you. Here's the rest of the lime. And because I did not purchase rice or rice noodles this week, oats were it. Oats are such a plain flavor. They can be sweet or savory. You just gotta be a little experimental. So there was another coffee. I have a problem, but we're doing it for the sake of this video. We are getting creative this morning. So I blended up some oats into oat flour, and then I'm throwing in the rest of that sweet potato. So I only had half of a sweet potato with my Buddha bowl the other day, and this is the other half. I added a little bit of salt and some oat flour into it, and then gave it a really good mix. And our goal here is to make some sort of sweet potato, oat flour, tortilla, pita thingamabob. So in total, I added half of a cup of oat flour to my sweet potato and then used my hands to flatten it into this shape basically, threw it into the pan, and then just used my spatula to flatten it out a little bit more. Because I used a non-stick pan and also a decent amount of olive oil, I didn't have a problem with it sticking. If you don't have a non-stick pan, I don't suggest trying this because it will definitely stick. However, I fried it on medium heat until both sides were nice and golden. Threw in my guacamole, threw in some massaged kale, along with red onions, black beans, cilantro, topped it off with some lime juice, and there we go, a sweet potato tortilla pita thingamabob, and it was delicious. Something that I've really loved about this week is I've got this spark of creativity in the kitchen because I've had minimal ingredients to work with, but I'm someone that loves flavor and loves fun meals, she says as she's making a yogurt bowl. So I just got back from a run, and it is literally perfect running weather right now because it is going into fall and winter in Canada, so it's nice and chilly. I don't like running during the summertime because honestly it's just too freaking hot and it's not pleasant. It's just not a good time. So fall and spring are my favorite times to be a nice little runner. Anyways, segueing into my point that I want to make here is by lowering my budget, I'm also lowering my calorie intake. The less food that I have in the house, the less food I can consume. Really, if I want to stretch it along all of this week, I need to make sure that my meals are small enough that I have enough to eat during this entire week. And why I thought of this right now is the fact that last night after dinner, I was still hungry, not to the point where I was like literally like starving. I was just like, I didn't feel fully full and satisfied with my day. And this morning after I had my big breakfast, I was doing okay. Had my yogurt bowl, I was doing all right. After my run, my body is just feeling like, damn, you have not been eating as many calories as you normally do. And I've been in a position where I haven't been able to afford a lot of groceries and haven't been able to eat necessarily the way that I would like to due to my budget. And I am just so grateful now that I am able to purchase the food that I want to eat and purchase the food that fuels my body and makes me feel good and makes me feel happy and healthy and vibrant and all of the things. But like, my heart just goes out to everybody struggling with money and struggling to put food on the table. Honestly, like, it is not an easy thing to do, and a lot of us take advantage of it, and a lot of us don't realize the privilege that we really have. So the next time you see a homeless person, give them a banana. If you know, you know. If there's someone standing outside of the grocery store, ask them what they like. Go and purchase that for them and bring that out for them, okay? I don't think that food should be for the privileged. I don't think that clean water should be for the privileged. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think any of you think that either. So let's take into consideration the people that are struggling and do our best to help them and support them. Anyways, let's make some dinner. So for dinner tonight, we are actually gonna make some gnocchi. Is it gnocchi or gnocchi? I feel like in every single one of my videos, I'm asking you guys how to say something. 1 for gnocchi, 2 for gnocchi. I say gnocchi, so don't mind me if I'm saying it wrong. Anyways, as you saw, I peeled a lot of chickpeas, which takes a long time, so throw on your favorite show, throw on your favorite YouTuber, and get comfortable. On very low heat, I threw in some olive oil and my garlic into a pan and let that just basically sit and combine together for like 15 minutes until the garlic was slightly browned, super fragrant, and it added so much depth and flavor to this hummus. Threw in lemon juice, aquafaba, salt, onion powder, and chili flakes. I then had some leftovers and headed over to Mitch's house to make this dinner. So I made part at home and then part at his place. Anyways, we are sauteing some onions, some carrots, some red pepper, and some zucchini with chili flakes, rosemary, oregano, salt, pepper, and then we are actually gonna crumble in some tofu to add a little bit more bulk and some protein to this meal as well. Because of the minimal ingredients, I've really had to spread out this tofu to add some extra protein into my meals, along with my beans and stuff as well. Time to make some gnocchi. So, very similar idea to the pita or tortilla that I made this morning, but I pressure cooked this sweet potato and then added my oat flour. In total, I almost added an entire cup of oat flour to this sweet potato to get it to the right consistency that I was looking for, along with a decent amount of salt as well to give it flavor. I then split the batter in two and sprinkled out some oat flour on my surface. Used my hands to just kind of shape it into a weird sausage thingy and gently rolled it out. The thing is, you don't want to add a lot of pressure. You just want to gently and evenly guide your fingers down until you get the right length and thickness that you are desiring. Once I did that, I just used a knife to chop it up into little bite-sized gnocchis, and I honestly was very impressed with them. They looked so good, and I wasn't expecting it to work as well as it did. And because we are using oat flour for this, you cannot boil them. Trust me, I've made this mistake in the past. Do not boil gnocchi that does not have gluten in it, because it will literally just disintegrate into the water and become a sludgy mess of nothingness. So that is why we are pan frying today. I then threw in my veggies, the other half of the gnocchi. Oh my goodness, I can't speak. Along with the hummus mixture as well. In hindsight, I should have split up the hummus mixture, added a little bit more lemon juice to the little bit that I was using to thin it out, and then add it to my mixture, but hey, it is what it is, and it was still damn delicious. Okay, so I tried really, really hard not to make anything else other than coffee this week, but I couldn't. I love hot chocolate so much. Also, you may have noticed that I've been using some coconut milk this week, and that's just because I've had it sitting in my fridge for a little bit. And again, I'm just someone that doesn't like to waste food, so I've been using it up in the most minimal way to not affect the actual meals. Moving on to breakfast, I honestly think this was my favorite breakfast out of this entire week. It was so freaking delicious and it was so easy to make. All I did was fry the potato and then separately fry up some onion, some carrot with some salt and some chili flakes. Fried up the potato until it was nice and crispy and golden brown on both sides. And to the mixture of the onions and carrots, I added some black beans simply just to warm them up and then topped it off with some guacamole. Oh. Yeah! Woo! Celebration time, come on! Okay, I don't know about anyone else, but pickled red onions, I could literally just sit there and eat the whole jar. No shame. Gorgeous! Gorgeous! Was she a chef? Was she a chef? Nah, she's just a YouTuber. Accent is that? I'm trying to be New York, but that's not happening. So after that embarrassing fiasco of I don't even know what was going on in my head, we threw in some pickled red onions. And no, I did not pickle the red onions that I bought this week. These were previously pickled red onions, but pickled red onions are super cheap to make, and that's why I justified myself. So as the week goes on, the meals get weirder, okay? It's just because you have minimal ingredients to work with and you gotta get creative. So I added some olive oil and my garlic to my pan and did the same thing that I did the other day for my hummus. Just browned it very slowly, threw in some red onion, threw in some cabbage, threw in my zucchini, along with some salt and some pepper. And now we are making a guacamole type pasta sauce. And let me tell you, you could make this a jillion times better with fresh herbs, using a blender, emulsifying oil, maybe adding soaked cashews into it. This experiment kind of opened my eyes to a new way to use avocados, and I can't wait to actually make a recipe like this where I have all of the available ingredients to make it super delicious. But even so, this ended up really good. So I threw my pasta in with my veggies with my sauce and then zested some lemon on top as well. A tip for zesting lemon is you don't want to go past the white part. You just simply want to scrape off the little bit of yellow layer, but not get any of the white, because the more you get that into the dish, the more bitter it's going to be. So the good thing about making your own kombucha is that technically it's free. So that was a free cup of kombucha. Let's just go with that. And because I had 2 savory meals this day, I was not craving savory for dinner. So I did the same thing that I did the other day. I just stewed some apples, threw in my oats, threw them into my bowl along with some almond yogurt, raspberries, and a banana. But I had some leftover chocolate granola that was just sitting there staring at me, and that was the last little bit. So I threw this on here, and honestly, it was fantastic. No regrets. So I think most vegans love a good tofu scramble, but because I was running scarcely low on tofu, I had to bulk it up with some other veggies. We got some onion, we got some carrot, and we're gonna throw some cabbage in here as well, which is a great use for cabbage. It added a nice crunch to this dish, which I was not mad about it. So we had a quarter block of tofu left. We crumbled that in, gave everything a good mix, and now we're going to spice things up with some chili flakes, some oregano, a little bit of chipotle, and some turmeric and some pepper as well. And of course, we gotta add some tamari because tamari is essential when it comes to tofu scramble. To use up the rest of these chickpeas and one more avocado, I decided to make a chickpea avocado mash, but just an extremely basic version of it. So I skinned those chickpeas, threw them into a bowl, smashed it up with an avocado, added some lemon juice, some chili flakes, some salt, and then once my quote-unquote tofu scramble was nice and crispy, threw that into my bowl along with my chickpea avocado mash and topped it off with some pickled red onions because I'm literally obsessed with them and they are so freaking delicious. I highly recommend them. So cheap to make, so easy to make. You just can't go wrong with them.
I didn't think it'd be this hard to go and try to let you down. At first, for sure, we saw forever and the distance, but the path of least.
So, I've been thinking about making a carrot soup literally all week. I just haven't got around to it. So this is what we are doing right now. I threw the rest of my carrots into this dish with some olive oil, some salt, and some pepper, and then threw them into the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 45 minutes until they were nice and cooked and browned and delicious. Ah! Oh my gosh. What a fail. So getting that coconut milk out of that jar was a task and a half, not gonna lie. There's just this one part of the upper shelf in my fridge that if something goes there, it freezes. I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, but that's my weird fridge problem. So along with the carrots and the coconut milk, I added a bunch of spices, and I will write the full recipe down in the description box below for you. And then it needed a little bit of acidity and a little bit of sweetness as well, so I added a little bit of lemon juice and some maple syrup as well. If you don't have access to maple syrup, that's totally okay. You can just throw in some sugar or some coconut sugar. You just need a little bit of sweetness in this dish. I then snacked on a little bit of leftover pasta from yesterday, and then threw my soup in my bowl along with some cilantro, some chopped red onion, and freaking enjoyed. This was actually so good, and I highly recommend it if you're on a budget or if you're not on a budget. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and potentially got a lot of value out of it. So I am cutting it off right here. However, I do have to make dinner tonight, but I want to get this video out to you as soon as I possibly can, which is going to be tomorrow. And the sooner I finish the video, the sooner you can watch it. So grateful that you are here. However, I want to show you guys what I have left over from the grocery haul to demonstrate that I could have gone longer recording this video, but here we are. So I have a little bit of coconut yogurt left, like this much in the container. Kale left over as well, enough to maybe make one more salad. I have quite a bit of that hummus that I made, and honestly, guys, this was so freaking good. Like, so freaking good. A little bit of the leftover avocado mix that I used yesterday for my pasta dish. I have some leftovers from this morning from breakfast. A decent amount of black beans, about this much left over. Little bit of the guacamole chickpea mixture that I made this morning as well. Half of a zucchini, an entire lime, a quarter piece of lemon, a little bit of cilantro, even though she looks a little sad. Quite a bit of red onion left, half of a red pepper, quarter of a lime, and technically I used an entire pepper because I did have half of an orange pepper that I wanted to use up during the week. So I used half of that orange pepper that I had left over and then just half of this red pepper to kind of like equal things out. 4 apples left over and still quite a number of avocados, like 6 avocados left over, which is insane. I probably am gonna just cube them and freeze them and use them for smoothies. And a decent amount of cabbage. That is everything that I have left over from this week. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you did, don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button because it truly helps out my channel, and I'm just so grateful for every single one of you tuning in. If you are on a budget, I hope this gave you some inspiration and some meal ideas, and I will see you again soon for lots more content coming your way. Have a beautiful rest of your damn day.